Hi everyone, and welcome to AWS Security Summit. As you guys are aware, AWS provides a wide breadth and depth of native AWS security services. In this session, we wanted to take you through how some of these native AWS security services can be used by customers to have an advanced threat detection and response available on their AWS infrastructure. My name is Himanshu Verma, and I'm a worldwide security specialist with the AWS team. In today's session, I'll give you an overview of the layered security services that AWS offers and how customers can leverage those for various different personas. Some of the best practices of how these services can be leveraged within AWS accounts, and more importantly, when it comes to threat detection, monitoring, as well as automated response, how customers can use three of our native AWS security services, that is Amazon GuardDuty, AWS Security Hub, and Amazon Detective to create that framework. And then we'll leave you with some best practices across your AWS accounts. So with that, let's jump right into it. First, I wanted to highlight that AWS has a wide breadth and depth of AWS security services services that can also be layered along with the management as well as governance tools. Customers often like to follow cybersecurity best practices or cybersecurity frameworks, and one of those frameworks is the NIST framework, which is also applicable in various other regions and or geographies, and has been adopted in various different regions and geographies. One of the first aspects of that framework is the ability to identify. So AWS security services can be leveraged to identify what resources, workloads, etc. are available, or to identify where are the gaps and or deviations from best practices. AWS Security Hub is one of those services that we will discuss today with that regards. Once customers have visibility and they've identified where their workloads and or resources are within AWS, they can then protect those resources, and that's where protection comes into play. AWS provides native protection services, such as data protection services that can be used for encryption, key management, secrets management, and or orchestrating PKI infrastructure at scale that can be used for data protection not only at rest but also in motion. Additionally, we also provide infrastructure security services that can be used to protect information and data in transit or information to and from AWS. Another important aspect is the ability to proactively detect any deviations or threats in AWS. This is where we provide AWS native security services such as Amazon GuardDuty, Security Hub, Detective, and Macie that can be used to proactively detect any threats and or deviation from best practices. All these detection services then report findings which can then be used by customers to automate a response action. This automation comes with built-in integrations with CloudWatch events or EventBridge, leveraging AWS Lambda or step functions, and then performing a response action. Most often, customers also have their security teams that want to dive deeper into investigating why the security incident happened or why a finding was reported, which is where customers would like to investigate these security incidents. So we provide a set of tools and services that can be leveraged there as well, using Amazon Detective and or some of the raw log sources such as CloudWatch or CloudTrail. Customers' security teams can do some deep analysis and investigate security incidents. And then finally, as a response action, oftentimes customers want to recover from a state where they deviated and or recover their resources. So that's where AWS provides automated tools like CloudFormation templates and or Cloud Endure backup and recovery that can allow customers to recover. So leveraging the combination of both the security services, the governance tools and management tools, you can view that how a cybersecurity framework like the NIST cybersecurity framework and the key aspects of those frameworks can be replicated. Before we dive into today's session, I wanted to also highlight one of the key aspects around AWS accounts. AWS accounts is a logical construct that allows customers to contain all the different resources that they're using within their AWS infrastructure. Some of the basic infrastructure resources like compute, databases, storage, etc. reside within the account, and or other activities that are flowing in and out of the account with regards to network and content delivery are also in that logical construct. Not only does an account provide an ability to create that logical boundary, but it also allows customers to scale effectively. As businesses grow and customers want to replicate, they can actually add more and more AWS accounts with those same resources. Additionally, it also provides customers to create a construct around various different teams and their personas as well. Using AWS organizations, which allows customers to create a hierarchical organization of their accounts, customers can now define various different team roles and their personas. So for example, a security team can have a centralized management account where they can actually view as well as aggregate all the security incidents. Additionally, they can have various different limited access roles in their hierarchy. For example, a read-only or a view-only role for security incidents, as well as a dev or a test tool to experiment and or test some of the security tools. AWS organizations also provides this hierarchy along with organization units that helps customers as they are scaling their AWS infrastructure to maintain that logical construct. And the reason I'm highlighting this is that as organizations grow and the number of AWS accounts grow, it's important to leverage security services that natively integrate at the account level. With that, we wanted to dive into the threat detection, monitoring, and response framework that customers can orchestrate in their AWS accounts using native AWS security services. Imagine an account which has hundreds of buckets and have multiple instances and or various different IAM access roles that are accessing the account. All the logs and telemetry from that account are automatically then ingested by native AWS security services. This allows customers to keep not only their security operational costs in check, but also automate some of the aspects associated with raw log collection or raw telemetry that's required to perform threat detection. So the native AWS security services, such as Amazon GuardDuty, which is a foundational service for threat detection, Amazon Macie, which is focused on identifying any deviation from best practices when it comes to protecting sensitive data at scale and providing visibility into sensitive data at scale, and Amazon Inspector, which provides visibility again into any deviations from best practices when it comes to vulnerabilities in instances. These security services, being native to AWS Cloud, automatically are enabled at the account level and integrate with some of the infrastructure resources in the account to bring in the telemetry and the log information, and then report any deviations in the form of findings individually in those security services, or they can all be aggregated and consolidated within Security Hub. Security Hub is another account level service that allows customers to aggregate all the findings from native AWS security tools as well as partner integrated tools in one place. From there, customers can easily take actions or write response actions. And further, their security teams or security analysts can investigate those findings by using Amazon Detective, which is an investigative service focused on providing security analysts the ability to dive deeper and find the root cause analysis of the security incidents. So this is a framework view of how at the account level and across multiple accounts, customers can easily leverage AWS native security services and create a threat detection, monitoring, and response framework. Now let's dive into some of the individual services and their key features, and also some of the best practices. How would a customer enable threat detection at scale? As I highlighted earlier, Amazon GuardDuty is one of the foundational services for threat detection and identifying known as well as unknown threats at scale in AWS. GuardDuty helps customers protect their AWS accounts, workloads, and data with intelligent threat detection as well as continuous monitoring. Once enabled at the account level, it simply takes one click to enable the account, enable the service at the account level, and then it's continuously monitoring the telemetry and raw logs integrated within the account, and then reporting any deviations or reporting any threats in the form of findings. Being an account level service, it's fully integrated into AWS organizations that allows multi-account setup easier. So customers, to scale the service across multiple accounts, can leverage the delegate centralized management account feature of GuardDuty, which makes onboarding of multiple accounts and enabling the service in those accounts much easier as well. And then security teams can have a centralized account where they can view all the findings from GuardDuty in one place. One of the key values that GuardDuty provides is the built-in data sources that it has. Now, to identify any threats in the network activity, customers often need access to VPC flow logs and DNS logs. I want to highlight that the biggest value proposition that GuardDuty provides customers is that they do not have to explicitly enable these log sources. Simply by enabling GuardDuty, customers have access to GuardDuty. The service in the backend establishes a channel where it has access to the events from these log sources. So network activity is automatically fetched from VPC flow logs and DNS logs. All of the account level and workload level and IAM level activity is recorded in CloudTrail events. So GuardDuty also has access to CloudTrail events. And then finally, for data access, GuardDuty also has access to the data plane events of S3. By automating this at the account level, or enabling this at the account level and ingesting these events through a private backend channel, it eliminates the need for customers to enable these explicitly. Then these events are treated through threat detection types, which is either using threat intelligence sources. So AWS has its own threat intelligence source. Additionally, we also leverage threat intelligence from our partners, such as Proofpoint and CrowdStrike. And customers have the ability to upload their own threat intelligence, using which GuardDuty is able to identify any known threats or bad malicious IP addresses, domains, etc., which might be reported in Bitcoin mining or command and control type activity. Also, once enabled, GuardDuty starts leveraging its machine learning models and then is able to report any abnormal activity or deviations from standard activity. So for example, if we see any abnormal activity around multiple instances being launched, or access from abnormal ports and or sources, or large amounts of data being exfiltrated, might not necessarily be known bad events, but abnormal activity that'll also be reported by GuardDuty. All of these are reported as findings in the console and then are available automatically to be integrated with CloudWatch events or EventBridge, from where they can be integrated into third-party tools. All the findings at the account level are also automatically routed to Security Hub and then can also be leveraged. The findings can also be leveraged to investigate the events further using the built-in integration with Amazon Detective. So that's a quick overview of how GuardDuty works. Once the findings are reported, we recommend customers to take actions on those findings, which can be done either natively within the GuardDuty console. Each findings have its own JSON formats, are also available through the APIs. So customers have the ability to operationalize them using some of the console features to either filter them and or create suppression rules to eliminate the noise and only focus on high priority findings or high severity findings. But more importantly, at the account level, all these findings are routed to Security Hub, which is the centralized monitoring tool from where customers can then route them into CloudWatch events and create custom actions to take the appropriate response. Once we have detected and enabled GuardDuty for continuous monitoring as well as detection, the next is how would customers want to monitor and respond to these threats at scale. This is where Security Hub comes into play. Security Hub is a centralized monitoring tool that is not only collecting events and or findings from native AWS security tools as well as our partner integrations, but it's also continuously evaluating various different controls to ensure that customers are following the best practices standards when it comes to their cloud posture or the security evaluation or the security posture assessment of the best practices standards. Security Hub is again an account level service and can be easily integrated with AWS organizations for multi-account management, which allows security teams to have again one centralized place to monitor as well as aggregate all the findings, and then from there create automated response actions. One of the key benefits that Security Hub provides is also normalizing the finding format into Amazon Security Finding format for all the findings that are routed into Security Hub. That allows the security teams to eliminate the time that's required to operationalize and or write configuration rules to take actions on these findings. A deeper look into how Security Hub works. When enabled at the account level, Security Hub does require AWS config as a prerequisite. This is so that it can go in and evaluate the backend controls which are required for the best practice security standards, which are continuously evaluated for the security posture assessment. Additionally, any respective security services that are enabled in those accounts, for example, GuardDuty, which is detecting ongoing threats, or Amazon Macie, which is reporting either control plane events at S3 data access or sensitive data discovery findings, AWS Firewall Manager, Amazon Inspector, or IAM Access Analyzer, they are also reporting these findings to Security Hub at the account level. Having that one centralized account again at the AWS organizations can allow customers to regionally aggregate these findings in one place. And then third-party integrations with tools also allows those findings and events to be aggregated into Security Hub as well. In addition to aggregating and helping security teams prioritize these findings and events, Security Hub is also conducting automated control checks, which help customers evaluate any deviations from standard best practices so that they can take collective actions on both the findings from AWS security tools as well as any deviations from security best practices. So the key common use cases that Security Hub helps is, number one, the ability to view, triage, and take actions. It provides customers that single pane of glass where they can actually view all the findings. It helps customers aggregate and prioritize where they would want to take actions, and also allows the security teams to eliminate the overhead required in managing events and alerts in various different tools. We do recognize that customers might be using not only Security Hub, but other monitoring tools. And this is where the integration into Security Hub and the normalizing of those events into Amazon Security Finding format allows customer security teams to write a single set of operational response actions to further enable the automation. And then visibility into their security and compliance posture of accounts. So once the standards which are built into Security Hub are enabled, customers have one place to go and view how they are faring against those standards and or if there's any deviations. This is just a quick highlight. We provide these built-in integrations with Security Hub, so we are now beyond 60 and plus external partners as well as tools that have built-in automation. The user interface of Security Hub provides the ability to configure some of these tools, such as gateway firewalls, vulnerability assessment tools, and or EDR, MDR type tools, or managed security service provider tools that customers might be using. And those findings and those events can then be ingested into Security Hub, normalized into the Amazon Security Finding format, and then leveraging CloudWatch events and the custom rules can be defined so that customer security team can either automate those response actions within Security Hub, or they can also integrate them easily into the outbound tools where they want to take actions. So for instance, like SIM tools, security incident and event monitoring tools, or SOAR tools. Customers also have the ability to integrate their own customizations where they can enable and import AWS custom config rules into Security Hub as well. There is a blog post resource available here that you can reference on the steps on how to import these custom config rules into Security Hub. One of the other values that Security Hub provides is that AWS is consistently adding and has implemented fully automated 150 plus controls that are categorized into security best practice standards. Two of the native AWS security best practices standards that are available in Security Hub are AWS Foundational Security Best Practices, which has about 50 plus pre-configured rules. These are curated by AWS security experts and the recommended best practices that are available there. And these controls are monitored continuously by Security Hub, and a security score is provided so that customers have a view of where they need to go and act if there's any deviations. Again, the findings or the deviations from those security standards are reported in the severities, and their severities are reported in AWS Console. Another standard that's available is the CIS AWS Foundationals Benchmark, which is again an industry standard that can be leveraged to evaluate the security best practices. And an external standard is also available, which is the PCI DSS standard, to ensure that the AWS environment that customers are using and the accounts and the resources are complying to the PCI DSS standards. The dashboard in Security Hub provides that centralized view of all these different findings that are aggregated from native AWS tools. But more importantly, they can be aggregated into insights. The insights provide customers, an aggregated place to customize and define response and remediation actions on a particular resource, which could be in either an EC2 instance or all of their S3 buckets, etc. Let's take a look at how Security Hub can be leveraged to also create custom response and remediation actions. Using the CloudWatch integration that's available in Security Hub at the account level, customers can create custom CloudWatch rules that can initiate step functions or Lambda functions, or can send these findings into Kinesis data streams for customers to visualize them, and or to SNS notifications for alerts and notifications to their security teams. A combination of all these together from Security Hub allows customers to then create automation remediation playbooks and runbooks using the custom CloudWatch rules, and then its easy integration into both native AWS automation tools as well as third-party integrations into external tools. An example of this is in a playbook or a runbook that's available by the AWS solution team in a CloudFormation template that cites how these custom rules can be combined together to take a playbook type approach on insights or aggregated findings that are reported in Security Hub. So Security Hub provides that centralized dashboard or a single pane of glass to customers where you can standardize and prioritize the findings reported by native AWS security services as well as third-party partner integrated tools. You can view your security and best practices compliance posture against some of the key standards. And then more importantly, have one place to go and configure how you want to take response actions and or remediations to the findings that are reported. Going back to the construct of the accounts, one of the best practices that we recommend is to leverage the AWS native AWS organization integration for multi-member account setup or multi-account setup of these services. That allows customers to easily designate or delegate a centralized management account for their security teams, from where they can manage the enablement and onboarding of these security services across all their accounts in a very simple and easy fashion. Once designated or an administrator account is designated, then the security teams can easily onboard multiple member accounts, and using the auto enable option can easily enable these services across all their accounts. And then they have one centralized place to monitor as well as to view and take actions for response and remediation. Another aspect of automated response and remediation is investigating security incidents. So how can customers investigate and triage threats? Amazon Detective is one of our key services that provides customers the ability to correlate the findings from various different data sources using CloudTrail, using VPC flow logs, as well as the Amazon Detective findings. It allows customers to dive into the entities that might be insightful on determining what are the root cause and investigate those security findings. So security analysts can leverage Amazon Detective at the account level to view over a period of time how a security incident might have manifested. And this allows them to, again, automate analysis as well as response action and have a visual insight into a security incident. Amazon Detective is also available at the AWS account level. It can be navigated, and it's fully integrated with Amazon GuardDuty as well as Security Hub. Security Hub being the centralized aggregation where customers can aggregate all their findings and then choose an option to investigate those findings using Amazon Detective, or they can navigate to GuardDuty and from GuardDuty findings initiate Amazon Detective, or it can also be integrated with partner services where events are reported, and then to investigate those events they want to launch, they can launch Amazon Detective. Detective provides at the account level, again, native integration to some of the log sources, and then from across all those accounts gathers that information, and being a multi-account setup, again, allows customers to build an easier analysis of these security incidents. Using a behavioral graph, it is able to then correlate and also highlight some of the entities across which customers are interested to see how these security incidents are happening. Customers can go as back into a 1-year period to investigate those findings. So for example, if a GuardDuty finding is reported, some of the built-in entities that automatically align these incidents into are, for example, a user or an IP address or an instance, and those correlations can then allow the security analysts to go in and dive deeper into the aspects of that security finding. Using the enhanced user experience from GuardDuty, customers can also easily filter into the Detective console and then narrow down their search results and where they want to investigate. So Detective allows, again, multi-account setup. It's fully integrated with GuardDuty and Security Hub, and it eliminates the complexity that's required to investigate security findings and or the root cause of these findings. More importantly, it eliminates customers to actually gather all these raw logs over a period of time, which can get expensive and costly, and hence building that graph analysis and providing visual insights which are easy to use allows customers to easily investigate those security events. So some of the key takeaways: number one, leveraging AWS native security tools allows customers to easily build a framework of threat detection as well as automation response. It reduces the burden on their security teams when it comes to scaling these security services across multiple accounts and multiple resources. And more importantly, it allows customers to centralize the scalable deployment of these services using the built-in integrations that we have with, for example, AWS organizations at the account level. And then the easy one-click enablement makes it simple for the security teams and eliminates the additional operational overhead. The final takeaway, AWS Security Summit is a learning event. So we do recommend customers to leverage the content available in AWS Summit. But in addition to that, there's also a wide variety of digital library of content that's available. There are 25 free digital courses that are available, as well as we also recommend customers to take a look at the AWS training and certification that are available. And if you want to validate your learnings, there's a security certified specialty that's available as well, which we highly recommend customers to go and take. More access and more resources are available at the URL mentioned at the bottom of this page. So with that, I thank you for joining this session and highly recommend customers to take the survey so that you can provide us your feedback. Thank you.